meeting. And before we proceed with what we have planned for this morning, I would like for us to commit this meeting into the man or into the hands that have enabled us to be here this morning. So without wasting too much time, I would like to invite Mr. Solomon Chuma to lead us in a word of prayer and just commit the meeting into the hands of the Almighty. Solomon, you're welcome.
Let's hand ourselves. Lord, great Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us together for this deliberations, God. We pray to guide us in the proceedings and may the deliverance will be fruitful. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Solomon, for that prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, on FSDU and Uganda Bank Association, would like to thank you so much for honoring our invitation to be here this morning as we share some information, share some knowledge on a project or a discussion that started way back in 2019 on the electronic Know Your Customer project. We have made some good headway together with the fintech company that we're working with, and we are happy to share the direction that this project has taken. In the room, allow me to recognize the presence of some of our stakeholders who have joined us this morning. We have Rashmi, who's the, I won't say outgoing, or should I say outgoing CEO of FSDU Uganda. Thank you for coming this morning. We also have the E-Kyc Bank, Mr. Anthony Kituka. You are a member of UBA, you're welcome. UBA is represented by the ED himself, Mr. Wilbert Omor, you're welcome. We also have another gentleman who's also part of our stakeholders. That's the person behind the technology. Mr. Timothy Musoke, the CEO of Laboremas. I have learned to pronounce that name, Laboremas, with time. You're very welcome this morning. We also have a representative from the Central Bank who's here in the capacity of representing the Executive Director Supervision, Mr. Premon Ogwok, you're very welcome. We are happy to have you this morning. So ladies and gentlemen, all the representatives from the financial institutions, we are all excited to see you inside this room. And we look forward to your feedback, we look forward to additional information you'd like us to add to the system as we continue to make it even better. We will also be having, I think we have a representative that should be joining us from NITA. As and when he comes, we'll also recognize him as well. But ladies and gentlemen, allow me without further ado to invite our first speaker this morning, who's none other than Rashmi, who will speak to us about the project. She has been with this project with us from inception. Rashmi, you're welcome.
Thank you, Patricia, and my apologies, audience. The positioning of the stage means that I'm looking at the doorway instead of you, so you'll forgive me for that, and I'll try my best to make eye contact with the audience. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I welcome the representatives of the Bank of Uganda. You're welcome. I welcome Representative Executive Director of the Uganda Bankers Association, Will Brock, Dr. Hatwi, who plans to join us from the NITA Uganda, Timothy, the CEO of Laboramus, representatives from the Financial Intelligence Authority, various ministries, including the Ministry of Finance and UNRWA, and associations like UBA and FITSPA, as well as representatives of financial institutions. You're all welcome, and also a welcome to other private sector colleagues and the media. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome you to the stakeholder engagement. FSD Uganda is proud to have supported the electronic KYC verification initiative in the country in partnership with the Bank of Uganda and the Uganda Bankers Association. When I look around this room, I see familiar faces. Faces with whom FSD Uganda has spent hours discussing and debating the importance of E-KYC to the twin goals of National Development Plan 3, that is financial inclusion and a digital economy. True financial inclusion means providing people, businesses with meaningful savings, credit, insurance, payments, and long-term pension products. Each of these products need KYC verification and authentication. Therefore, identification, especially real-time identification, which is what we call electronic KYC, is the fundamental rail on which the entire financial sector rests. Once we have the ID of individuals and businesses and a better understanding of how they participate in the financial sector, meaning how they spend their money, school fees, health, education, where they buy their goods from, how they receive money, whether it's remittances, salary payments, wages. These data trails help the financial sector build more customized and valuable products for customers. The unique identifier, of course, being the national ID, thus deepening financial inclusion and enabling innovation in the country. When we began E-KYC initiative with UBA, we were glad to fund this initiative on an equal footing with the commercial banks. Today, 25 supervised financial institutions are connected to the National ID platform directly or indirectly through NITA Uganda, meaning more than 15 million bank accounts in the country are verified, fully KYC in compliance with regulations including AML-CFT. And the financial sector can wholeheartedly continue its role of enabling the growth of the economy. However, when it comes to financial inclusion, our hope as FSD Uganda is that we take this initiative to its actual full potential. As the central bank and UBA are aware, the world of digital financial services has changed. Today, the technological innovations have grown by leaps and bounds. In many parts of the world, you can download an app, enter your identification details, provide two-factor authentication, including biometric identification, and become a new bank customer, start transacting all in a matter of minutes, without ever visiting a branch. That's where we hope to see this initiative grow. We hope to see true competition in the financial sector. We hope to see fintechs, SACCOs, and MFIs, all of whom provide majority financial services to Ugandans, being able to access KYC, and especially electronic KYC, whether that's a direct connection to NITA, or riding on the KYC of commercial banks. Once we are able to achieve this, we would have truly contributed to the government of Uganda's parish development model. As many of us are aware, financial inclusion is the second most primary pillar of this model, and building E-KYC systems that help the financial sector ride on it seamlessly and provide innovative products and solutions will go a long way in contributing to the government of Uganda's PDM model. This brings me to part B of NDP3, which is the digital economy and how E-KYC impacts it. Digital economy, in the simplest terms, is the exchange of goods and services via digital means. The enablement of a digital economy requires, at the very least, 3 mandatory pillars. One is a digital platform, like Jumia, Amazon. All of these are platforms where goods and services are exchanged. There are buyers and there are sellers. The second is a logistics network. That's warehousing and a means to transport and deliver goods and services. And the third most important pillar is financial services. For these platforms to work, we need real-time payments, credit, and insurance of goods. These financial service providers, or the providers of payment, the Uganda Bankers Association, with whom we walked the journey from the start, Nita, you, and Mira, who have been willing and, more importantly, proactive partners in this exercise, and our colleagues at Laboratory, who have developed the technical platform and provided banks with training to use the platform. FSB Uganda is the country's leading think and do tank on financial inclusion. Our focus is on building inclusive financial markets, markets that serve women, youth, smallholder farmers, refugees, and small businesses. Our commitment to working with partners like the Central Bank, UBA, NIRA, NITA, and the private sector remains steadfast in achieving this objective. I wish to congratulate and thank everyone whose massive efforts have brought us here today to celebrate the first phase of the completion of the E-Kyc initiative. This would not have been possible without your passion and dedication for financial inclusion. I wish everyone a great deliberation and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi, for those wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we all in this room have the appreciation that the journey that we started in digitization is only getting better with all the innovations and initiatives that we will embark on through collaboration, and we are happy to continue making it stronger, making it better, and making the experience for our customers and our clients even a lot better through the digitization and the E-Kyc project. Our next speaker this morning, ladies and gentlemen, will be the Executive Director of Uganda Bankers Association. I'm not sure if the platform will make any addition to his height, but he will decide whether he would like to stand up or he will rather sit or stand below the platform. Wilbert, you're welcome to speak to us this morning.
Is it okay? Okay, good morning to all of you.
Good morning, brother.
I thought of standing down actually, but Anthony gave me courage to come up the podium. Let me start with the protocol. The delegation from Bank of Uganda, representing the EDS, is represented by Mr. Ogwok Demon. The Executive Director, FSDU, who's just spoken, Rashmi. The ED of NITA, I don't know whether it's here now. I know that I spoke to the ED of NIRA yesterday, she was traveling. The CEO of Laboremas, Timothy, member CEOs, executive directors of supervised financial institutions, all the representatives. I can see Anthony, Anne, you're welcome. Francis, thank you for coming. Representatives from the Financial Intelligence Authority and Ministry of Finance. We have CRBs here, fintechs, MNOs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and the press. That is protocol. On behalf of the association, and as a co-host, I welcome you on behalf of the entire fraternity of UBA. I know most of you are members. Thank you for taking time. As a host, really will be to thank you for coming and say a few things to enable the discussions flow. But let me share with you the journey so far. This E-KYC journey, we started way back in 2018, can you imagine? And we had numerous discussions at that point in time in digitizing the KYC process. KYC for us in banking, know your customer, is a very, very important first step, whether at account opening or even authenticating transactions. And we had lots of meetings then. Unfortunately, we did not make progress. And in 2019, we continued with the conversation at MIRA, at BOU, among the membership. And we started seeing light. And like Rashmi said, we eventually reached an agreement with BOU, ourselves, Laboremas, FST, and worked with MIRA to get to where we are today. I don't have to emphasize the importance of digital identity and the means to authenticate and verify. This is our trade in the banking sector. I think most importantly is how it can help us drive the future. And I know the second part of today's session will spend time on that. But the journey has been very interesting. Today there are 25 SFIs connected, and there are a few others work in progress. It was an interesting journey, a lot of challenges getting to where we are now. Sometimes we would have meetings and supervised financial institutions send representatives, because remember, there was a project manager for each financial institution. So one meeting, the project manager would come. The next one, they send a branch manager. And they have sales targets. So we say, well, what is this about? And then the next meeting, they send a sales rep. They say, but you people, what is all this about? Some members, 9 months down the road, 12 months, 18 months, questions that would have been asked at the beginning were still coming. But that was interesting. We are 36 corporate members, and people change jobs. So these challenges happen. What is important is we've made significant progress. 25 out of 36 are live. I know that another 8 or so are work in progress. And I think today's session, the gist of today's session, will focus on, now that we are where we are, what else, how do we leverage this? Ever since the passing of the National Payment Systems Act, today's world, as you all know, colleagues, bankers, is convergence, especially in the payment space. The battles that are in the retail space now, are driven by digital solutions and offerings. Yesterday we had a governors meeting, the monthly meeting with the governor, and we are seeing statistics of payments. And there was a discussion, how else do we go cashless? We are still, of course, a heavily cash-driven economy. Today, more than ever, the battle is at the retail point. Use cases where merchants determine who succeeds. So, how quickly you facilitate identity, facilitate a transaction, do a payment, using whatever multiple channels. They are the ones who control the trade. And the amount of volume that is in the retail space. There are still challenges, and I know when Laboremas comes to speak to us, we'll speak to some of them. But we said, let us start. Let's start somewhere. Nothing can be perfect. Because there are still some inadequate fields. I know member banks want more fields. There are issues about connectivity sometimes, so that there are frequent downtimes. So they will never be a perfect system. But in our conversation with Nita, and I'm sure Nita will speak to it as well, there are many things they are trying to do to solve these problems. There are more detailed reports you may want, inclusion of a lot more biometrics, and even training itself, because like I said, staff of banks change from one institution to another, and they take on another role. And of course, as we end this first phase, as an industry, we must have a framework for relationship management. There will be issues of support, complaints, matters to be attended to, and therefore we are putting in place a framework that even as the project phase ends, we have a good support framework to support member institutions through this phase of E-KYC. I want to end by saying again that now more than ever, it's about collaboration. Yes, we are financial institutions regulated like in the past, but there are new players today. Today we partner with fintechs, MNOs. There was a workshop I attended, and I think we're talking about the national switch. And one of the consultants was telling us, stop thinking about MNO banks and so on. The world is about convergence today. If MNOs through mobile money and escrow accounts can mobilize all those deposits, and they end up sitting in the banks, they have done the job of mobilization of deposits for you. So don't talk about competition, collaborate more, and above all, provide customers with solutions. That is what matters today more than ever. And then at the wholesale level, you can of course intermediate through provision of credit and other intermediary roles of financial institutions. So I think we have an interesting future ahead of us. I am looking forward to very interesting discussions. I think the focus will be, as we go to phase 2, how do we harness what we have, but what else do we do? What potential is yet unlocked? How do we rely on the existing veins? What else do we do? And then we have willing partners. FSQ has already mentioned it, and many others, including the World Bank, to support us to the next phase. More than ever, shared platforms, shared infrastructure is the way to go, and then you differentiate yourselves with the product and how you manage the relationship with the customers. So once again, thank you very much. And at this stage, I think I would like to use this opportunity to invite the representative of POU, Mr. Bok, to come and make remarks on behalf of the Central Bank. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I believe all protocols have been observed by the previous speaker, so I will go straight to what has brought me here. But in the spirit of Bank of Uganda and the late governor, Mr. Emmanuel Musini, who believed in fostering financial stability matters and dealing with emerging issues in the spirit of collaboration and working together. I ask members to take a moment of silence. May the soul of the dear governor rest in eternal peace. Now, I didn't come alone here. There's another gentleman there, Mr. Pascal. He's been the project manager of this E-KYC project, Bank of Uganda. And in case of any questions, please, I will direct them to him because I will not be in position to give you satisfactory remarks. Now, the EDS's message, I'll read it straight away. The Bank of Uganda is committed to developing a robust banking and financial sector, resilient to shocks, and contributing to increased access and usage of financial services. In line with the government of Uganda's NDP3, the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, and the Financial Sector Development Strategy, the bank has taken critical strides towards supporting digital transformation in Uganda. A key component underpinning this development is digital identification. By developing a reliable, secure, and easy-to-use E-KYC framework, Uganda can usher in a wave of innovative solutions built on the back of a secure authentication. A digital E-KYC framework is therefore critical for the financial sector because it enables faster onboarding of new clients, increases the penetration of formal financial banking services, builds reliable data trails and analytics for product development, and allows for better AML and CTF monitoring. The vision for this project was to develop an E-KYC platform for all supervised financial institutions that will connect to the NIRA database and transmit verification requests securely. This means the potential of this platform cannot be underestimated. As the primary digital authentication platform, E-KYC system can be integrated with other databases like the URSB, Registration Services Bureau, the Lands Registry, the Movable Assets Registry, the CRBs, and as such enable an advanced background checks for local authorities. Over the next year, the Bank of Uganda intends to implement critical objectives intended to increase financial inclusion and strengthen the digital economy in the country. One of these objectives includes the development of a new financial inclusion strategy, as the current one is coming to a close. The other initiatives include the proposed national suit, and implementing the regulatory sandbox, all aiming to support the development and access of new innovative financial products and also access to the new verification system. Furthermore, the E-KYC validation platform will be instrumental in identifying new targets for increased financial inclusion and contribute to achieving those targets, especially those related to increased access and use for formal bank accounts. In addition, the Bank of Uganda vision is also to develop a payments ecosystem that is cost-effective and efficient for the financial services providers and the customers, on which provision of innovative products suited to the needs of the customers will guide. Jointly shape the future, leveraging on each institution's strengths and plans. He believes that this event is just the beginning of such engagements, and future deliberations will explore ways to improve the current solution and open up dialogue on how best we can support access to the infrastructure and non-banks. Finally, we wish to convey sincere gratitude to the key partners that have been involved in this project, particularly FSDU, who have been a vital partner in this journey. Their financial support is a clear testimony in their quest to walk this journey and bring for Uganda's financial markets to digitalize to greater heights through a formidable foundation of the E-KYC system. The other partner is Laborious Uganda for lending their technical expertise and resources, and more importantly, being patient with the SFIs and their teams, developing, testing, and ultimately going live milestones. The UBA, the project management teams, and the tireless engagements with all stakeholders in championing the project milestones, monitoring, reporting, and unlocking the various bottlenecks and challenges encountered. To the SFIs for the financial support and time and providing the relevant human resource teams. To NIRA for their cooperation to engage and provide the necessary support towards accessing the database testing and support. And to NITA Uganda for their support in handholding the SFIs and project teams in general and providing the much needed secure communication. As it winds up, it says, as the financial services regulator, we will continue to engage all stakeholders to ensure that financial markets are integral and stable. We look forward to hearing more on the feedback from the participants on the areas of recommendations and the way forward. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Mr. Obok. A round of applause for Mr. Obok for his presentation. Ladies, I've helped you informed that we are streaming live online, and our hashtag this morning is electronic KYC on Twitter. So please pass the word around. And like the last speaker mentioned, there's a lot more, and we thank EOU for the support towards this project. There's a lot more that we can do with the feedback that we shall receive this morning from the team. As the project management team at UPA, I'll tell you one of the things we learned over the last 2 years with this project is to have a certain level of patience. I think one of the speakers said the project managers kept on changing, and we had to go back a few steps just to ensure everybody is with us at the same level. But we want to appreciate all the member banks who are able to successfully integrate on the system, and we also look forward to more integrations from our partners. Like EOU mentioned, we still have URSD and other government agencies whose platforms we are able to integrate with. At this point, allow me invite the main person we are here to listen to. The team that was behind the system development. They'll take you through what they went through and where they are. And Mr. Timothy Musoke is ably going to be able to take us through that this morning. Timothy, you're very welcome to speak to us.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I have a presentation to show on the screen, hopefully. My presentation is going to be very visual, so please, if you're not able to see the content, maybe you can get closer to the screen at some point. What a journey it has been. Lauremus started off in Norway, where we built a number of solutions for banks in Norway and Sweden and Finland, mainly focused on KYC. This opportunity came, and we said everything we have learned we shall bring to the local banking sector. We were so privileged that the Uganda Bankers Association and the Central Bank found trust in us to actually undertake this very important initiative. It has been a huge learning experience. We started off with a contract with specific milestones, and we said, good project management, you know, you have to follow things like this. And then, of course, we quickly realized that different financial institutions were at different stages of understanding and development in terms of the implementation of KYC strategies. So we had to adapt along the way. Huge support from SSTU, huge support from UDA, and huge support from the members themselves to actually make this project happen. As it has been communicated, Today, there are 25 banks that are already connected to this platform. Some of them already integrated this platform into their core banking systems and are actively performing ID verification during their account opening processes. Some have decided to use a portal where they go and verify an ID one at a time. Some have a mobile app which they use to basically match a fingerprint to an ID, because that is also possible, but I'll show you that shortly. I will not dwell so much on what we do, because this is not about us today. Okay, in a nutshell, for those, I think you've heard that a lot of stuff were changing, and every time you go to a bank after 1 month, you find that the person you're talking to is different. So I would imagine there might be people here who may not know exactly what this project is all about. And this question, I think, for every kind of gathering like this, we did have questions where people are not sure what is really happening and what is priority and what is coming later. In a nutshell, the current phase of the project is to validate the information on an ID card. And the second important aspect to this project is the ability to map a customer or match a customer to the ID they are holding. So what does that mean? That when a customer comes to you with an ID card, the system that has been developed is able to read the information of that ID card automatically and will actually be able to send that to you. And that information is sent to the ERA database for verification. The second aspect, while you read that information of the ID card, there is an opportunity for you to know or establish if the customer standing in front of you is actually the owner of that ID card. That is one aspect which many financial institutions have not yet been able to put to use, and yet it's actually very readily available. How is that possible? Because the ID card the customer is holding actually has an embedded fingerprint inside the card. So if the customer is standing in front of you, you can basically ask them for their fingerprint, and then you match it with the one on the ID, which means if you want to get rid of copies of ID card and you are enforcing strictly an original national ID card, you will be able to actually flash out all customers who are holding duplicates. So that is another important thing to note. So the three main features of this system, because we realized so that the process of opening an account is automated. So they needed an API. Whereas some were built at a different stage of development, they just needed somewhere where a customer service officer can go and verify the identity of someone, and then they will go ahead and open an account manually. So those, we created a portal for them. And then some other customers wanted a combination of the ability to read information automatically, so that meant the development of a mobile app, and then the ability of that mobile app to send that information to NERA for verification. So portal, mobile app, API are all features that are available to all UDA members. You already paid for that. We were surprised sometimes when the people were interfacing with asked us how much is it to get the mobile app, how much is it to get the portal. And we can remind them you've already paid for these things. Just briefly, as I said, the portal is, if you have a customer service officer and they are trying to open an account and they need to verify an ID because they already have a PC, this portal will be accessible in all the branches. We install it at your headquarters and all the branches have access to it. The interesting thing about the portal as well, that again, many financial institutions have not yet been able to pick up on, but we are going back one financial institution at a time, retraining, is once you verify the identity of someone, if now that person needs to go and apply for a loan and we need to perform the verification again, if the information is not too old, you actually already have that verified record with you. You don't have to go to NERA or NITA every time. So it depends on your risk appetite, where you say, if I verify this ID 2 weeks ago, it is still valid for me. And now, this is an opportunity for all your systems in the bank to use this record as a true verified record. I will not talk about the mobile app. Let's go to the portal. Sorry, the API. One very important feature that we discovered while we were interfacing with financial institutions is how to use the API. So many banks, there are some banks that have 20, 30, 40 systems that are deployed in the bank. They all do different things, and a number of them need a record of a customer. So financial institutions kept asking us, so why do we need this system if we can also just go and integrate with NERA ourselves? The first obvious answer was always, because you already paid for this. So why do you want to develop when you've already paid for someone to develop for you? So many financial institutions misunderstood that because there is an API as NERA, it doesn't mean that because you have access to it, you're not going to do any custom development yourself. Because how are you going to integrate that into your own systems? So that was the first misunderstanding that we got from the financial institutions. So the second reason, obviously, is you're not going to get all your 10, 20 other systems to integrate into NERA directly, but rather you need your own central point inside your own financial institution through which all your systems go through to connect to NERA. Advantages are obviously speed, security, and also cost, because now you have a centralized record of verifications you've already made. And if one system has already made that verification as NERA, not all the other systems need to go and do the verification. So this, we are going through the financial institutions again. jobs. Some of the first financial institutions we integrated with. The next time we go to make a presentation in another financial institution, we find that they are the ones leading the project, and then what happened? That's why the support that Wilbur referenced or alluded to is going to be important. But even if these people move to other financial institutions, at least a supportive framework enables you to always fall back to that, and there is consistency in the delivery of that information. So there's not enough amount of words I can use to explain what has happened besides actually show you what has happened. We realized that we talked to a number of executives and they roughly knew what was happening. So this may be the only opportunity you're going to get to actually see what you're paid for. So I encourage you to get from us for this. Could you please could you start it and we see if people are able to see? Just pause it there. Is everyone able to see? Okay. All right. I will keep asking you to pause. Go back a bit. All right, stop there. So the screen that you see, this app is available to all the financial institutions. The users are also managed by the financial institution. And this is the part where we make sure that the person trying to access the system is authorized. You can move on to the next screen. Go to the next one. All right, there. So at the back of the national ID card is that barcode. And that barcode has all the information that you will see at the front of the ID. But it also keeps the fingerprint of your customer. So that app is able to extract that information and decrypt it. We work with Nira to actually provide us the proprietary tools to decrypt the fingerprint. And if you can go to so the moment the barcode has been scanned, the information that has been extracted is actually displayed to the user, and at this point you can either verify the fingerprint or you can just go ahead and request for verification. Can we move to the next? Yes, so if you're not satisfied with the mobile app, there's also a portal. You can quickly play that. In that portal, you're able to see all the verifications, whether those initiated from the app, or those that are initiated from the portal itself. And in there you will see which verifications were successful, which verifications were unsuccessful, when they were done, etc. Each verification to Nira costs about 55 shillings. So you need your own way to actually keep track of how much you're spending. So for those banks, especially that have volumes, this is an important tool for you to be able to reconcile with Nira, because at this point in time, the Nira billing system is not able to tell you how much you've used or how much is your balance. So you need to be able to, from time to time, be able to assess where you are. This is something that we have been talking to Nira about, so that SFIs are able to establish the consumption and also be able to reconcile. Why this is important is if now you connect the systems for automated verification and you run out of credits at DIRA, the system will just stop functioning. You will fail to, so and then your customers in the field will get stuck because they're not able to open accounts. So this tool is very important to also help you establish your consumption and keep letting you know your balance. One other important thing is the green button there at the bottom. It says NIRA Online. Why did we put that there? Because from time to time, the platform makes experience connectivity issues. So we expected, we saw that the support requests would increase. What's going on? What's happening? But actually, that little green button tells you that maybe NIRA is off at that particular point in time. And when NIRA is off, the interesting thing is actually if then you have already done that verification, certain verification before, your other system can depend on that platform, even when there's no connectivity, as long as you've done that verification in the past. Yes, you need that system in the bank as well. Yes, so in a nutshell, you can stop there. In a nutshell, those are the main features of the system. That's what the system is capable of doing today. As I wrap up, the main challenge that we see, we have talked to all the 36 SFIs, we have talked to fintechs that are interested in doing this, and as you know, fintechs like to move fast and break things, quote unquote, which is not something SFIs, banks like to do, because of course the regulations have been more stringent than you. The biggest challenge that faces these and other digital transformation initiatives has been the change of staff. This is much bigger than you think it is. For us, we have talked to all of them, and we have seen, I think 40% of the people we're talking to changed along the journey. That's almost half. And therefore, the capacity in the teams that are responsible for this continues to be a challenge, which means that the success of rollout of E-Kyc in the different financial institutions largely depends on the knowledge that the institution is able to maintain. So, as managers and supervisors and decision makers, that is something that we need to look out for, not just for this, but also other digital transformation initiatives. And the awareness is going around because there's a support for marketplace to retrain teams to see where the challenges might be. Some financial institutions have installed the platform but have not yet activated it for various reasons, like the ability to incorporate it in the processes. We are available to support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Timothy, for the presentation that you have shared. this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how far we've come together with the team from Laboremus. And we're at a point where we want to hear from our audience. We have, like I mentioned, we are streaming live. We have audiences that are joining us online. And right about now, we are getting into a Q&A session. I believe you have questions, experiences that you'd like to share by way of feedback. And at this point, I want to invite this from you. How we'll do it, I've been advised by our media team that for purposes of also the online audience hearing or being part of the Q&A, whoever has a question would request that you come to the podium because the mic is at the podium that's linked to the online audience. It will also give you an opportunity to stretch. I think we've had a nice breakfast. So it will give you a chance to stretch and walk a bit. So at this point, by show of hands, we'll take 5-5. We have 4 speakers who have spoken to us this morning. Mention your question and who you're directing this question to, and we'll be able to respond. By show of hands, can I see who's okay, 1? Okay, we'll take 1 for now, as the rest prepare their themselves. Please come along. Give us your name, your institution, and then your question and who is directed to.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ramesh. I represent ETB. I have a couple of questions. My first question is, on the card you have a barcode, and when I'm activating that, I'm capturing the biometric also of the customer. What I want to know is, when this activation process is going on between that card, the customer, and the NIRA, are we validating the NIN number and the card number and other information, or is it the biometric also that gets validated? Because I really want to know whether it is the biometric also. Because that is when I establish that the biometric which is there on the card is also the biometric at the NIRA site. This is something that I want to understand. The next thing that I want to understand is, when you open an account digitally, I don't really know where my customer is sitting, whether he's in Uganda, whether he's in outside Uganda, okay, when I'm doing digital account opening. So I know that for every Ugandan, national ID is mandatory, but when I realize that if my customer, being a Ugandan, is not sitting in Uganda, I would like to then capture the passport details of that person who's not in Uganda, and maybe the expiry of the passport, and also the, what you call, the visa, work permits in the foreign country where this customer is living. So, is it enough for me, irrespective of where the Ugandan is, just to validate the national ID? Do I need to go one step ahead and also validate that with the passport? That's something that I want to understand. These are 2 questions that I had at the moment. So,
Thank you so much. Timothy, what's your preference? We take questions, or you want to answer one at a time?
I could just answer quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, related to the biometric validation, it's the validation of the biometric on the ID card is a 2-step process. If you wanted to achieve what you have requested for. The first one is, first make sure that the customer holding the card is actually the owner of the card before you now go over the internet to validate that. Because if that fails, then you have no business validating the biometric anyway. Now, and that is done offline, the validation with the customer. You don't need internet for that. So this can be rolled out to agents en masse the validation with NIRA, the interface does exist, but NIRA has not opened it up yet. Why? Because of data privacy and consent restrictions. Now, because of data privacy doesn't mean they should not provide this. It's just the ability to collect this consent electronically does not yet exist. We're working on it with NITA. And I'm aware that they're actively implementing this. So the moment that that framework is in place to align with the Data Privacy Act of 2021, then NIRA, these interfaces I have seen them myself, they're already available. The ability to send an in and get KYC information is also there, but the laws require that certain things are in place before that can be shared.
Once again,
yes,
I want to just add something there.
Yes.
So, if I'm not able to validate the biometric of the customer, and if I use that biometric for future usage for transactions, as a bank, am I legally protected if there is a transaction which happens electronically?
No,
That's where I'm coming to, because
okay.
you see now, if I take this authentication, and if I don't validate the biometric, and if I use that biometric which I captured through the card, and use it for future purposes, where do I stand if something goes wrong legally?
I'm not a legal expert, but I would recommend that you don't use that approach. Then you don't depend on, okay, the fact that I've extracted this fingerprint, therefore I'm legally protected. I think that is something that maybe someone in the room can help to answer. Being a technology expert, I would say what we have seen in identity, it's a probabilistic approach. You will never be 100%, but rather increase your fortress around establishing identity. If I scan a card and I'm able to read that information, because the decryption is based on proprietary technology that NIRA provides, you have already eliminated maybe 60-70% of the NASA road printed IDs, right? So that is step one. You've eliminated half of the fraudsters. Then step two, I would say, okay, let me just check if, let's say, again in a fraudulent situation, let me just see if this person actually owns this ID. And now you match that information with the customer's fingerprint, just to see if that customer actually owns that card. Because why is that important? That when you go to NASA Road, they print the card, they never worry about what is at the back. So actually, you read Timothy Msoke at the front of the card. When you go at the back and you extract whatever information is in there, it reads runner or something. So just that basic check again will eliminate another 20%. And then if they manage to do that, then because the fingerprint is further encrypted beyond what the basic information is, if you now match the fingerprint with the customer, you will find that those who are sophisticated enough, they never manage to actually embed a fingerprint or the right fingerprint. So then if you match the fingerprint, you've now eliminated another 10-15%. So by the time you just do those 3 basic steps, you are almost at 90-95%, which is much better than what you have to, what financial institutions had like a year ago, because it was purely based on some person in the bank looking at the card and saying, and then look at your face, and then say, this card must be okay. So it is already a major upgrade from where you were before, and but on the legal side, maybe someone in the room will be able to help you with that. The last part was the passport and other nationals. I don't know if someone from NITA is here, but NITA has rolled out something called UG Hub, where they are connecting various data sources from government. One of them is immigration, which means that Ugandans abroad who don't have national ID card, East African residents, other foreigners from Europe, other Western countries, that information as they come in is captured by immigration. And this information is actually available on this UG Hub. We are actually working with NITA to actually also incorporate this into the initiatives of UBA so that SFIs under UBA can be able to access verification of non-Ugandans. So that is on the way. I think it's what Wilbur was alluding to. What is next, and we shall talk about that in the next section of this event.
Thank you, Timothy. We are expecting Dr. Hattrick from NITA, as well as a representative again from NIRA. So if you have any questions, we'll definitely have them answered then, and we'll take a note of them. Is there another hand? Yes, sir.
Morning, everyone. This is Jude from Untitled Chapter. Just have a few queries on how we can make the E-Kyc system better. I think one concerns the data we supply to the vendor system to the verification of the customer identity. My suggestion is it possible for us to make it the balance in drug? That's for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, we have a question that has come in online. One of the questions from Joyce Nambasa. The question is about the cost of validation. Is it per validation done each time, or an institution pays a one-time fee?
Quickly, related to the information, the ability to send minimum information to NIRA. Unfortunately, you have to send at least 3 fields. You have to send a need, you have to be able to send a card number, and then you need to send 1 extra field. This is the design of the current API, and one just needs to be able to innovate around that. I wish it was much more flexible than that, but unfortunately, that's what it is. Maybe when the API which allows you to send a need and get KYC information back becomes available after the privacy framework is in place, consent framework is in place, that should help you solve that problem. My advice would be, if you already have the names of that customer somewhere else, you can marry them to the name and card number that you collect, and then you're still able to create a verification. But I understand in some situations the customer is entirely new, so you don't have that extra information to be able to make verification. Then, in terms of the report is actually there. There's a way to build that report and analyze it in different ways. So maybe we can take this offline and show you how you can be able to do that analysis. In terms of bandwidth, you have to know that this system is also used by telecoms to to validate their customers. I know certain customers who even perform 500,000 verifications in a month. So, and they don't have any bandwidth problems. So maybe you may need to double check that. I think the capacity is good enough from what we have tested. If you think it's not adequate, again, we can help you with that. In terms of cost of validation, it's cost per request. The statutory fees are 55 shillings per request. Therefore, when it comes to paying, Mira, they ask you to estimate how many verifications you think you will make this month or in a certain period. If it's 10,000, then you need to pay 550,000. If it's 1,000, then you say it's 55,000 shillings, and you pay that. You will use it until it's done. So it's not a one-off. It's pay per request.
Any more hands? Yes.
This is on my second question. I think I need some answers on that. Maybe Bank of Uganda also can clarify. What I was talking about there was a Ugandan not being in Uganda but living abroad. It's possible for me digitally to find out that he's not living in Uganda, living abroad. So, today when a customer comes to, let's look at the manual process today. Today if a customer comes to the bank and he says, I want to open an account with you, we ask for a national ID. And if the customer says, I'm going to be working abroad, we also ask for his passport and other details of the foreign country so that we know where he's living. So I'm talking about that manual process today in a digital process. So do I need to mandatorily take the passport in that process is what I'm asking. And the work permit and some other visa details of that foreign country, that's what I'm asking. It's possible for me to know that it's not there. So I don't want tomorrow a situation coming up saying that you knew he was abroad, you should have taken this. That's the situation that I'm trying to address from a regulatory perspective. Yeah, that's my
So, Bob, would you like to take it?
I didn't get the question well. He's asking, is it a crime to use other identification document?
So if somebody is not, this is a Uganda living abroad, they come to the account and use their passport. Can you verify, can you validate? Is that the question?
My question is,
Can you?
Well,
my question is, digitally, if a Ugandan is working abroad, I can know that he's working abroad because it's possible to find out through IP addresses, etc., that is not living within the Uganda jurisdiction. In that scenario, if I'm having a digital process to open an account, do I only ask for national ID and validate and open the account? Or do I also need to take, because he's living abroad, a passport and a work permit or a visa of that country?
So you're asking whether Mira can be of assistance in that process?
No, at that digital stage, do I need to ask for the passport details?
No.
I'm not asking. That validation of the passport may not happen, which is fine for me. But at least I take the passport number, expiry, work permit, and this. That's what I wanted to answer. It will not validate with the passport. Does not validate with Mira. Only the national ID I will validate.
Okay, then that's not a question to Bank of Uganda. I think we have better people placed to answer that.
It's not a question for Abramus either, but I understand what you're saying. So, from the requirements of opening an account, a national ID, proof of identity, proof of address, a photo, what's the other? Yeah, okay. Those are the primary requirements. Those can be established with a national ID. Now, if you want to know whether this person is not inside the country, then the people with that information are at immigration, right? Because then they have a record of that person leaving the country. I alluded to earlier E-Kyc. E-Kyc has information on passport, it has information on visas, but of course if it's a Ugandan, then the visa situation does not really apply. But they would be able to tell you whether that person has left the country or not. I am not certain yet that what is in the E-Kyc platform for immigration exposes information whether this person left the country or not. Okay, I think what they will be able to provide you is the verification of a passport. What they are also able to tell you is the legal residence of non-Ugandans, because either that person has a visa or that person has entered the country. So, for you to know if this person is not in Uganda, you have to collect information from them, which is not mandatory to go to open an account. So whether that is through your digital data collection tools, being able to establish the geolocation of this person at that particular point in time, which is very possible today, depending on the channel you're using. If it's a browser, you will be able to know this person is not in Uganda. If it is a mobile app, you will still be able to do that. If it's a WhatsApp onboarding channel, you will still be able to establish if this person is in the country or not. So I think this platform is not going to be able to solve for you that. You are the one who needs to be innovative in how to establish the location of this person. But I am interested in discussing with you what is possible with immigration, because you're already talking to NITA on what information they can avail SFIs to validate nationality, residence, and things like, legal residence inside the country.
Thank you, Timothy. I saw a hand here. Then we'll come to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Lucky from Iron Bank. I think my question will be best answered by Nira or Nita, but I would like Timothy to give us his experience. We have come to scenarios whereby we find someone has 3 IDs. It's called today David Lucky here in Kampala. You go to Lira, it's called Obok Dennis. You go to Soroti, it's called Etienne Emmanuel. The same person. When you use the barcode, yes, it will bring out the same information. However, when you go to check out the facial features, they're actually for the same person. Have you interacted with these organizations to share with them such challenges?
Thank you for that question. The way to deal with that is, as I explained earlier, if you are creative about what NIRA's API actually provides, you will actually be able to get a lot of benefit from it. Number one, the API enables you to verify whether the information on an ID is valid or not. So that is step one. Now, this API accepts a NIN, it accepts a card number, it accepts a date of birth, it accepts the first name, it accepts what they refer to as given name, and then surname. Now, if you want to make sure that the names provided match with the NIN that is on the ID card, NIRA will tell you that the NIN you provided me and the card number and the names you provided are actually, they match. Because it's possible for you to say, to have a certain NIN, but it has different names, right? So in NIRA's record, NIRA will tell you, for me the NIN I have does not match with the names you've given me, okay? So I guess the strategy here would be supply as much information to NIRA, and NIRA will be able to actually tell you things like that NIN is valid, that NIN belongs to that card number belongs to that NIN, those names belong to that NIN, or there's a mismatch. They even go as far as that person died, or that card expired. So you just need to extract more out of just checking whether the card is valid or not.
Thank you. Your question is not answered.
Which part?
My question is, yes, the validation will be fine with the NIRA, but the issue is on the facial features. You'll find the persona is the same person, but having 3 different names.
Yes.
Yes, and when you send all those names, NIRA will give you a feedback that this is okay.
Yes.
But when you look at the facial features,
yes,
they have one person.
Yes.
So how do we handle that?
Okay. NIRA does have a facial validation API, but it is related to a question someone asked earlier related to biometric verification. In order for NIRA to be able to open up that, they need data privacy consent framework to be in place in order to open that up to you. So that is not yet ready. But it doesn't mean you can't put strategies in place to start to work around that. A face is a biometric. So is a fingerprint. Yeah? So if you don't have face verification, then use fingerprint verification, because that is already embedded in the card. So my proposal to you would be, if you get a card like that, then take an extra step to validate that the person who is holding the card, actually the biometric inside the card belongs to them. And then that already will eliminate a number of scenarios where there is fraudulent identity. So this is a feature, but there's still already things you can do to minimize that risk.
Thank you, Timothy, and for standing in for Nita and Nira. But I'm happy to welcome the CEO, ED of Nita, Dr. Atwib. There have been some burning questions for you, but I'll let you breathe first before we come to you. There was a hand on this side. Please come and ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Rega from the Antitrust Bank, IT department. I would wish to thank the members who have joined hands up to the different organizations to put up this for us. It's really a good project. They know to help us a lot because I've been having challenges verifying the customer details. However, we still have some challenges that I would like to raise. I'll be straight to the point. Around 3. One is the availability of the system. There are so many times when the system is down, our CISs and tellers try to validate the customer details, but we find the system off. So they call us for support. We try to load the system, still it's down. So I'd request you increase on the availability of the system and work on that. Mainly the portal. We've been mostly interacting with the portal. Then the other one is the support. I would like us to know NIRA and Laboremas who should be providing us support. I understand it should be Laboremas because ideally we as the financial institutions are abstracted from NIRA by Laboremas. However, there are times when we face challenges and then we contacted Laboremas for support and they referred us to NIRA. So I would need clarity on that, who Laboremas and NIRA should provide us with support concerning the same system. Then I've also observed that the system overcatches. You validate or you verify you provide all the details that are required, the card number, the NIN, and the other detail, either the date of birth or the name, and then you validate tells you, it says it's invalid, then you refresh the browser, you submit it again, and then it validates, says it's valid now. So I don't understand there. If it can't be reliable, then that's a big problem. So we also need to check the reliability of the system. Once I get the feedback concerning those three queries, I'll be glad. Thank you very much.
As far as support is concerned, please call us, talk to us. We are your primary support interface. We have not abstracted you from NIRA or NITA because the system belongs to you. But we help you use that system effectively. We talk to NITA, NIRA more often than you do. So I think it's a good idea to talk to us first, because if something is off, we'll probably know before you know. Now, in those few situations where someone has referred you to NIRA, I think that is just an option. I encourage you to just come to us. But sometimes financial institutions may, when there's something really urgent, then we tell them, we're going to talk to NIRA, but please feel free to also talk to NIRA. Then related to the reliability, some financial institutions are using this without any challenges. So I think I'm interested to specifically look at your situation and see if there's any challenges that need to be improved. So we can take it offline and follow that up with you.
The issue of catching, you can validate it fails and then you want it again.
That's the issue I'm referring to, because it shouldn't behave like that. And we haven't seen that in any other financial institution. So I am very interested to follow that up with you outside of here.
Thank you, Timothy. There is a question that has come online from Jacinta and Ninge. And the question is, there are jobs that some people do that eventually affect their fingerprints. How does the system address such changes in the
then it's likely, of course, that it's going to be mismatches, but this is going to be one in, I don't even know the right percentage, so let me not quote things that I don't understand, but it's going to be a rare occurrence, okay? So then you need to develop other strategies to deal with that situation. If NIRA was here, they are the ones who did the enrollment of the biometrics. They would have helped with how to deal with that situation. But for us, we read and match with a person,
And in those situations where it doesn't work, you need a different strategy to address that.
Thank you, Timothy. And I think at this point I will give opportunity to the ED of NITA, Dr. Mugasa Hatwig. Just for purposes of bringing up to speed with the morning, the part that you missed, we have since 2019 embarked on a journey to develop a system together with Labaremas, that's Uganda Bank Association and FSDU, Financial Sector Deepening, to develop a system that allows member financial institutions to interface with NITA or NIRA database for purposes of verification of customer information using their NIN, but also for purposes of updating customer information using their NIN. And there have been some burning questions in terms of if a customer comes to a financial institution and they want to open an account, and they are Ugandans but they work and stay abroad, can the passport be used? Is the bank able to verify or validate using the passport? I think it would also be important for us to hear from you in terms of this project. I know you have been part of the team, together with a team from Labaremas, so I want to welcome you to speak to us this morning. I'm sure more questions will come after you have spoken.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, FSB and the members for organizing this talk. I hope I'm audible, but allow me to remove my mask since I have some distance between all of you. Yes, NITA and NIRA, or I would say Government of Uganda. I'll be speaking on behalf of Government of Uganda, and I also speak on behalf of NIRA because I'm partly with NIRA as a board member. So there are some questions that I can probably answer on NIRA's behalf to some extent. But let me talk first about the project and NITA. So yes, the project, NITA is supporting the project in terms of connectivity. Our mandate is to enable government and private sector in facilitating them to get onto online platforms, e-commerce, e-transaction, and there are a couple of acts that guide us in this process: the E-Transaction Act, the E-Signature Act, the Electronic Transaction Act, and the Data Protection Act. So all those are under NITA, and we have to support, even if we're not benefiting directly, but the country is benefiting, and we have to enable that connectivity through our infrastructure and services. So we come in to provide that connection, that enabling environment for this solution to happen. And we connect to NIRA's database, or the customer database. And for NIRA, it comes in to now ensure that the requests are authenticated, or the customer is an authentic customer, is an authentic citizen. There are processes that they undertake within their system. Now on the bank side, I will not say much because I believe I don't want to get into their processes, but the bank side, I believe it's covered. Us now, we come in to provide that technology, that enabling technology, connectivity, and it should be reliable, secure. But I believe one of the questions, I will try to answer a question before I forget it. The fingerprint, what if, because technology is changing, we can't keep the NIN as the only source or parameter for verification. There's fingerprints, there is even the face recognition technologies. They're all coming in to enable that, or to increase on that security, measure of security. Now, at NIRA, we are looking at incorporating these technologies within the new IDs. So at the moment, we are not able to verify with the fingerprint, But in the future, with a new ID, and this is something that we are working on, with a new ID, we want to encapsulate those other biometric features within the ID, and even when you're calling for verification, a fingerprint will also be one of the measures for verification. So yes, we can do that, but not right now. We shall do that in the future. That service will be available, but in the release of the new IDs. So that's a brief on the system. We have a national data bank system, or what we term as the UG Hub. I believe some of you have heard about it. UG Hub is connecting systems to systems within government and also the private sector. We have prioritized the banking sector because of its need. It's one of the most demanding needs to connect to the other systems. So the banking connection has been completed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, about maybe 20 something, or close to almost all banks are now connected. Reliability is guaranteed. We have a disaster recovery and high availability within the system. So it's reliable in terms of the uptime. Security is also guaranteed, and security is going to be improved on. We know that for you to communicate, you need to be authenticated. Even the issuers of that, the issuer of that communication has to be authenticated. So right now we are trusting the banks, but then we can also take that authentication further to non-bank services. So we are building a solution, a digital authentication and e-signature solution on top of this solution. We will be launching it probably in the next 2 to 3 months, but it's a additional measure of security that we're adding onto the system. Right now, the system is guaranteed in terms of security, reliability, and I believe it's been performing well. I haven't seen the logs, but I would think it's working well from the technical side. That's, I think, all I can say about the system on NITA's side. Now I can go into the questions. I apologize, I had another engagement. I was not able to come in, but I'll try to attempt to answer some of the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Latwin. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The questions will be asked, and then we'll have you respond to these. Yes, so we are still with our Q&A session. 3 questions. I see one hand over there. Yes, 2? Okay. So we'll take the gentleman first, and then we'll take the lady. Please come to the podium.
Thank you. I don't know who the lady was. It's normally ladies first. I apologize. It had nothing to do with me. Good morning, everybody. All protocols observed. My name is Andrew Rugamba. I am the acting director at Airtel Mobile Commerce Uganda Limited. So my first question goes to Wilbrod. For the KYC, the E-Kyc platform, I would like to interpret this invitation as a request for you to join, for us, the MNOs, to join this platform. Reason being, we are on another platform, a legacy platform provided by UCC. I don't know if this is open to licensed but non-UBA players. So I hope you can respond to that. So the second question is around the support framework. Now, this is basis the platform that we are on, and I thank you for joining us, Dr. Hatwib, because you represent government, and the platform that we are using is seeing a lot of challenges, specifically with connectivity to NIRA. So I was just going through my notes before coming up, and I could count, I think there were 13 times between December and now that we've had downtime. So the reason I'm stating this is twofold. The impact to our businesses is quite high. Because if you realize, for us in the kind of business that we do, every day we churn subscribers or we lose customers, but every day we also onboard many more customers. So our ability to onboard customers is quite important to the continuity of our business. So if that connectivity is down and we cannot validate a customer, in real time, we are shrinking our business. But secondly, and I think which is most important, is once those links are down, it denies service to the customer. Normally, when these links are down, the first areas that call me is Amulata and Dokolo. I don't know why, specifically I haven't found out, but I think because those are hard to reach areas, they're the very first people to call me and say we cannot validate SIM cards, meaning we can't issue a SIM card, or if the customer already has a SIM card, we can't issue a wallet, a mobile financial services wallet. So the impact is really high. Now, specifically on weekends, it is very difficult to get support from NIRA for somebody to troubleshoot. So we would like a framework to be put in place where we have 24/7 support, meaning anytime after 9 we can get support, or after 5 we can get support, because for us in our business that is when peak begins. And then secondly, over the weekend. So if the link goes down Friday at 5, in most cases we're off the entire weekend, meaning our business comes to a standstill. Okay, so the third question, a bit about what my colleague from DTB was talking about, and this goes to Timothy. The biometric validation is quite important, okay? And what he was trying to raise, I think it wasn't dealt justice. What he was trying to say is that if I can't actually validate the biometrics with what is at NIRA, I can't 100% say that Andrew is Andrew. And I'll explain to you why. You talked about the Nasa Road and Nkrumah Road people. I can give it to you on good authority that they have now learned how to swap that barcode. Okay? So if I can't validate the barcode on the card that is presented to me, currently we are validating the human being and the card. Okay? So now we need to validate the human being, his biometrics, with those that are stored at NIRA. So to avoid the swapping, because once I change that barcode and the picture, I've created or I've transferred your details to somebody else, you will shoot the NIN card number, you will get correct details, but it's a totally different person right in front of you. And this drives a lot of fraud, especially in our industry. Okay, and to Laboremus again, you mentioned something about if one institution has validated an individual through the platform, then another institution doesn't have to do. So that raises a question from my side. Is your system a store and forward system? Do you keep customer information? This is just for my knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The question from the lady, no hard feelings. The statement changed. In case you didn't know, they said ladies first, but men just before. So you're welcome.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Ann Viola. I am with DFCU Bank. My question is to Doctor. We're all aware that at some point our national IDs are going to expire. The UBA team or everyone in the banks will tell you one of the most complicated things we go through is customer updates. So my question is, when our IDs expire, are we going to stay with the same NIN and card numbers, or we're going to need to have to update or ask customers to come and update them again?
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I will request answers from Wilbrod, Dr. Atwip, and then finally Laboremus.
So thank you very much for the questions. I think the answer is a resounding yes for what you asked me. And I will say the yes in 2 times for emphasis. That yes, the framework for collaboration, sharing platforms is open, and that's why we invited all of you, and that should happen. But also the second yes is that I also know that you are among the regulated players in the payment space under the NPS. And I also know that you are forming an association under PSPs. And I also got communication, formal communication from Bank of Uganda that the Bankers Association and the PSPs Association, we need to start a dialogue for collaboration, not just on shared platform, but as you know, on fraud. And you know we are being defrauded by the same parties on our mobile platforms, on our agent banking platforms, over-compromise of identity, and of course transaction processing. So it's not even just collaboration, it's a directive that we must work together and share information, especially on fraud, to see how to curb it. So the answer is a resounding yes. Thank you very much. But I like the additional information that you provided on how the Nkrumah Road and so on changed certain things, and what we thought was security gets compromised. It's just more information that I also hope, I believe we had invites to the fraud committee of UB as well, and I hope you are taking notes. Thank you very much.
I will answer Andrew's question on connectivity. And for this, I believe this is a connectivity that is, or that has been set up directly to NIRA, not through NITA. Yes, that is not the desired mode, because we have got a couple of, it's like spiked. There are so many connections to one central database, and that creates a lot of issues in terms of bottleneck. And I believe that's the reason why you're getting so many failures. What we advise is to have a central point of connection. Get to a central point of connection that is reliable, because NIRA will be focused in verifying the database, or their mandate is not in ensuring the connectivity. Let them push that to us. We will guarantee the connectivity, the reliability, and then they will guarantee the service availability. So once you get onto the portal, or the UG hub, the NITA portal, we are guaranteeing that reliability, and it's, I believe that's what is happening right now. And we're trying to advise all agents, all services that have been connecting directly to NIRA to go through NITA connection. That makes it more structured, more standard. It eliminates a lot of the hurdles, the bottlenecks that are currently being faced, and we will try to improve on that service in government. Then this second question from the madam, I didn't get her name. She was asking about the national IDs coming to an expiry date. I believe that's in 2040. They will be expiring. Most of them will be expiring in 2040. 2024. 2024, I apologize. It's 2024, but the NIN doesn't expire. So the NIN will still be the same. The ID card, the plastic card, and there are many reasons why it has to expire. Our futures change. 10 years from now, I may not be with glass, I may not be with a bald head. I may, or my hair may grow back. So, yes, and there's a reason why the ID needs to be renewed. But the NIN will still be the same, and your records will not expire within the different banks or different databases. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Some of you may have missed the point Dr. raised because of lack of context. I alluded to UG Hub earlier. The first financial institutions that were connected to the NIRA API, UG Hub had not yet been launched at that time. So all the ones that were connected later actually go through the NITA UG Hub, and NITA has been very supportive of this. I can also attest that the support, even on Sunday, is there because we have tested it. So and the reliability is also very good. So the plan is actually that all those financial institutions that were connected in the beginning to migrate to the NITA platform, so that they handle all the connectivity to all other government data sources that we talked to. We alluded to earlier, URSB, URA, and so on and so forth. In terms of whether we store customer information, no, because we don't have the system. You have the system. So we don't own a system which financial institutions, banks connect through. That system has been installed at each bank, and that information is with you. In terms of the validation of the biometric, maybe Doctor will also request you to, if you can, to talk about the consent. Earlier on, I updated the team, the members here, about the need to. There's a need for many financial institutions to get more information beyond yes/no validation of the ID card. Basically, for instance, to send an in and get more information. I did update the members that actually those interfaces exist, except the consent framework and other data privacy related restrictions are not yet in place, but I know, talking to your team, that they're actually in motion. And once those are available, at least we have heard from organizations like NIRA that then there will be a possibility to actually enable those interfaces.
Maybe I'll wait for you to make a statement on that.
So I just wanted to say that the ED for NIRA was meant to be here, because I noticed quite a number of questions, also actually from NIRA, but she was called abruptly to attend to something she couldn't, so she had to travel away. One of the issues we face in the project phase is consent and the issue that Timothy just talked about. If you notice, for some of the subsequent legal agreements, the issues of consent were well addressed so that more additional information can be provided. But that whole framework, I think there are some additions and modifications to the system that are being done between NIRA and NITA to enable that happen. And of course, the new IDs, there is currently a phase for stakeholder engagement to ensure that there's a full discussion on what the features should be in the new ID, including the facial recognition that he talked about. So part of the objective of today's session is to inform the next stage, like I said in my opening remarks, features, what we would like to see, certain capabilities, so that in the design by the various stakeholders, those things are taken into account. But the ED of NIRA also told me yesterday to capture as many questions that are specific to them. We are going to have a meeting with her as well after this session, so that we share these and of course come back to you with specific responses. Thank you.
Yes, I will also answer. I'll attempt to answer on behalf of NIRA, but NIRA will be the best to answer that question on consent. and also the additional features that are coming onto the ID, or what we are building up onto the current UG Hub. UG Hub is a data bank. It doesn't hold, it just transits, connects from one point to another. So it's connecting all these government unconnected systems into one central system. But on top of that, we're going to add another service called UG Pass. Now this is where those additional services, in terms of, I had a question about if you have information in another system like driving license, do I need to only rely on the national ID, or I can even add on to the driving license? Passports, land titles. There are other government systems that have person's data, or data that is relatively enough, not 100%, but it is good enough to authenticate a person. So this other additional system is going to bring up all those databases onto the UG Hub. So you will have additional features in case you want to confidently verify a citizen. You can ask for the driving license, if maybe he has a driving license, then you query the driving license system. You ask maybe if he has a land title, he's getting a loan and he has provided a land title as his collateral. You also query the land system. The passport system for this, I believe, would be suited for someone who is not in the country. Maybe he's abroad, he has a passport, he doesn't have an ID. But that I can't confidently confirm because the ID is a primary parameter for verification. But also the passport system is also coming on board. So all the systems can be used to verify with a bit of better confidence that this is actually the person that you are querying about. Not just a yes or no. So it will provide that additional function. But we had discussed with NIRA, what if we ask for even parameters, not just a yes parameter, give me the person's maybe and some other information that I can verify within my database. His location, he has said that he stays in this location, is it true? His picture, this is his, the features, is that the actual feature within the database? And any other feature, the fingerprint, all those features can be added onto the verification process. But that is for another stage. We can't, and of course you have heard about it, but we can't confidently confirm that we will be delivering it on this day, but we're working on delivering it to it. Yes, so I think that was it on that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hatwin, Timothy, and Wilbrod. There is one hand behind. Please come to the podium and ask your question. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the close of this meeting. We want to use the next 30 minutes to just wind up. For those of you who may not be able to come to the podium, I encourage you to write down your questions on the notebooks that you have on your table, and we'll definitely follow that up with responses. Sure. Please come, you're welcome.
Morning, everyone. My name is Yojiri Mkwaya from Mercantile Bank. I have 3 questions. One is for Doctor. The speed of getting national IDs is too slow, and customers are suffering to open up their accounts. How are you going to address that? It took me 6 months to get a national ID, and I celebrated. After that, I found a lady crying. I've spent 1 year and I was getting my national ID. How are you going to address that? Number 2 goes to Bank of Uganda, UBA. We're talking about collaboration. A customer has applied for national ID. He has the form. He has spent 1 year minus getting national ID. How are you supporting that customer to open up the account? Taking into consideration of single customer view in regard to DPF. Number 3 is about the letters coming from NIRA indicating the NIN per client. But remember, when you're validating, we are using the NIN and the card number. So how are we supporting that customer? Should we reject that customer to open up the account, or we should allow that customer to open up that account? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, Dr. Atwi. And then between BOU and UBA.
You have asked a very pertinent question. And I think all of us know that experience. When you get your ID, you celebrate. When I got mine, I took a weekend off and I laminated it. It was a big occasion, but that should not be the case. And of course, we can't, there's no silver bullet to that. I can't give you an answer to that. We will do this and it will solve the problem. But we have to work towards that. We have started with one agency that is more manageable. That's immigration, or the Directorate of Immigration and Citizen. Passports, or passport renewal, passport application. Right now, in the UK, we launched on Monday. You are able to receive your passport within 2 days. Within 2 days. Well, here in Kampala, it's a bit of a crowd, so we said, let's go somewhere where it's not that crowded. We are testing, seeing the system. Is it feasible? We are moving to other centers, but we'll also come to Kampala. And we have taken, I think, to Mbarara, Jinja, different centers that have enough traffic, and improved on the system. We want to change, well, we want to now transport that to NIRA, where you have decentralized centers of issuance. Right now, the centralized center is at Kololo, but if you decentralize that, first improve on the information sharing. When you register, there's a bit of lag that is there between the registration center and the processing center. So we want to improve that to be real time. So when you register, your information is taken directly to NIRA for processing, and they begin working on that same day. Then once it's processed, verified, now issuance, that's the other hurdle that we're working on. But I believe within once this process is done, I can't give a time, but once this process is done, we'll be able to guarantee that we can provide you an ID within days, not months. So just be patient, we will be working on that, and we guarantee we'll solve that. The other question was on the parameters, I believe from a gentleman. Yes. There was a question about the NIN and the card ID. I can't answer that. Probably NIRA will answer that. We'll take that to NIRA, or the ED of NIRA to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atwi. Mr. Okwok.
I will attempt to answer from a regulatory perspective, but I think it's more to do with the practitioners and how they're going about onboarding customers without national IDs. I mean, the financial inclusion strategy. Bank of Uganda, yes, gave a directive that the at most document of identification is the national ID. But maybe, as Wilbrod had mentioned, we need to collaborate more. Have discussions probably with NIRA and agree on certain parameters. I can't say much about this. Maybe Wilbrod could expand.
Okay, I think there are very many bankers here, so will you help me with the answer? because each one of you has certain KYC minimums and risk tolerance levels. But yes, one, the national ID is the primary fundamental identification document and a single unique identifier agreed on nationally, but even by our regulator, isn't it? In the circumstances that I don't have an ID yet, what happens? So again, the experience I've seen has been different from bank to bank. But one is, even when you apply for a national ID, there's a reference they give you. So you present that as an evidence that at least you have made an attempt. You just have not yet got the ID. Okay? And then there are additional documents. Some may not have got an ID and have a passport. Some may have the employer ID, residence ID, a couple of other identification documents. And I've seen some of the financial institutions accept that for account opening and give it a time period, hoping that by that time you'll have regularized by way of getting a national ID. I sit on the DPF board. I represent financial institutions. So of course we see every institution in terms of how much they have covered in terms of regularizing KYC, that exercise that we've been going through. And we never achieved 100%, but I know that we're above 75, 79% at some point. I know there were 3 institutions that were in the 50 and 40% on that exercise. But currently, different institutions have certain risk tolerance levels, and they can open with evidence that you have applied for a national ID supported by other documents, and they give you a time frame. And they report on those type of accounts and the quantity that the following are pending this and that, and we've given them this time period. I think the real solution will rely on how quickly NIRA can issue identity cards once I've applied. The development partners that we are working with, including the World Bank, have asked NIRA, what help do you need to make that process happen? So they are saying if it's a funding, technology, process efficiency, what is it that you need so that that is speeded up? And you can guarantee that when I apply for a national ID, it will take X, Y time. And that's really, at the end of the day, will be the solution. And in the subsequent meeting that we'll have with the NIRA, ED, even financial institutions ourselves committed, the CEOs said, go and find out what does NIRA need so that we help. Whatever type of help is required. And the World Bank has also said what help is required so that that process is really shortened. That would be the end solution. But for now, different SFIs, depending on their risk tolerance, take the application for national ID plus supported by a couple of other documents. I know some who have completely rejected. Said if you don't have a national ID, sorry. Something like that. We have also seen, again, last week we had a meeting with Forex bureaus. Again, some member institutions have completely de-risked Forex bureaus. For us, we don't have accounts of Forex bureaus. Others are saying, if you have the following, others are saying, no, you can open. Again, the risk tolerance is different. But even those ones, some of the requirements they ask for require NIRA's identification documentation. And that's how we've really made it clear to NIRA that we need to sort this out. Remember, we were also trying to match CRB information with the national ID. Again, that exercise has taken, yesterday at the governor's meeting, said, how can an exercise take 7 years? Yeah, when we are not, either it is not critical or something. Because if something is life-threatening, like the financial sector, we should move fast. So the engagement with NIRA is going to happen. Again, like Dr. said, I can't speak for them with the timeline, but we have really mainstreamed that issue in terms of the TAT. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all our speakers. In the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take 3 last questions. The rest will receive your questions on paper. Please write them down, and I will request Anthea. Anthea is at the back. If you may stand up. Please hand over those papers as you leave to Anthea, and we'll be able to take record of those questions. So any 3 last questions from the audience and the team, online audience, as well as the team in the room? Going once?
I can do it from here. Mine is not a question, but it is just an additional comment. Nira issues letters saying that this so-and-so has applied for national ID, and they give the name in the letter. So that letter also helps the bank when opening the account. They have the name, the date of birth, and the name. The only information missing is the card number. The only information missing is the card. And it is available at 1,000 shillings or something.
Oh.
That helps.
Thank you for that input. Yes, Market.
Now, if you allow customers to open up, okay, they have submitted the documents to the round database. As big accounts increases, I'm thinking that the 80% requirement by PPF should go down. What I'm saying is that the requirement by DPF, single customer review, the directive came out that you must see 80%. Customer national ID and mode of payment. Now, if we allow customers to open up accounts, yes, they have submitted documentation to me, I have evidence. As these accounts increases, I'm thinking the DPF directive is likely to go down. And I had an interaction with the DPF. They say that these customers must have national ID. We should enforce UBA and NIRA to expedite the process of getting national IDs. So I think there's a bit of a challenge there which needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you are right. But remember, we are also, and all of us, including DPF, we are part of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy for the country. So it's a bit of a give and take. But I totally agree. I mean, I sit on this board, but I also approve that we must not go below 80% as a board member. But I also speak for banks, and I know the challenges they are faced with. The idea, like I said, is we are trying to really push and work with NIRA, that you shorten the time that somebody can get a national ID. Yes, you get the application, I've applied for it, here are my details, pending getting a full ID. But until we really sort out the main issue, and that's where we are putting the energy. If you remember, for member financial institutions, the deadline for NIRA BOE, the DPF BOE kept on extending, isn't it? We said this month, June. The next, it was us, the same board said, DPF, hold on, extend this for another 3 months, extend for another 6 months, because of that challenge. So really, we want to tackle the issue from the root. We can extend, we can waive off, or we can stick with 80%. But we want the biggest part of our population to have national IDs. That's really the goal. We want to drive financial inclusion in the country. Okay? And we've done well to an extent. 6, 7, 10 years when I was in active banking, how many accounts did we have? 6, 7 million. We now have 19.5 million accounts. The mobile money guys have started 2 million, I think, mobile money. We want the country to be covered. There are some shortages, gaps, but we will just put effort in working with NIRA that they speed up the issue of getting a national ID.
Thank you, Wilbrod. One last hand before I close this.
Thank you, Edie. I think the question, if I may phrase it, the circular from the DPF, which came in August 2021, it was very clear that no opening new account without a national ID. Where we are, or where we are right now, you are a UBA CEO, but at the same time a board member of DPF. It says that if I open without a national ID, I'm liable to the penalties on what? FI Act 2004. For us as a financial institution, our role is to ensure full compliance 100% on the regulator. Our question is,
Are we going to be penalized as we await for the leader and the UDA to ensure that they expedite the issues of national ID? That's where our wallet is as financial institution. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to speak like a regulator. I am on your side. I don't want you to be penalized. That's what I can say. I don't want you to be penalized. We will therefore do everything. Sure, you are not penalized. But don't relax on not insisting on the basics. But we will try to advocate that you are not penalized as we sort the real issue. You realize the problem is actually not yours, isn't it? Yeah, you are trying to comply. It is the other person who doesn't have the requirements, and we want to achieve financial inclusion. So we'll speak to you, we'll stick with your side. The other side I just represent. But we are on your side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation. Thank you so much for your participation. Please write any additional thoughts and questions you might have. I want us to use the next 10-15 minutes and giving an opportunity to Laboremas to take us through some thoughts about phase 2 of this project. Way forward, what do we need to do on the system? And I want to invite Timothy. They have a 10-minute presentation that they'd like to share. And thereafter, I will release you to go about the rest of your day. Timothy, you're welcome.
Thank you. We've talked about national ID verification, but the requirements to roll out products by financial institutions especially to rural areas, remote customers, is very high. We have seen that financial inclusion drive is very high in many of the financial institutions. So how do you balance, obtaining as many customers as possible, at the same time remaining compliant with regulatory requirements? So we have discussed with UBA the vision that the association is trying to go into. So it doesn't stop at the verification of the ID card, but as you know, you need to also make sure you're not dealing with customers that are on watch lists. So things to do with counterterrorism, financing, as well as anti-money laundering are very high on the agenda. The Deposit Protection Fund, one of the requirements is to specify an alternative mode of payment, and a lot of customers are opting for either another bank account or a mobile money account. So in the same way, you need to be able to verify other information beyond the ID card. So could you move to the next slide? So I will talk quickly on the opportunities for the financial institutions. Customer onboarding. For one of the financial institutions we have managed to work with on this, their process involves the digital capture of information, part of which is the identity. The next part is to actually perform those tasks. when we started with this financial institution, it would take them about 2 to 3 weeks to validate all the information that they had. So in some situations, they actually had to just receive the deposit and wait for some time before they were able to actually allow the customer to withdraw, because that's when they had been able to validate the information that they had collected. Today, that financial institution is able to collect this information and be able to validate it and issue an account in less than 5 minutes, from 3 weeks to 5 minutes, while remaining 100% compliant. So how are they able to do this? Is that each one of those pieces of information is able to be automatically validated. Platforms like UG Hub and what NIRA offers enabling you to actually validate this information. Airtel was here. They also have the MNOs are providing abilities to validate phone numbers to make sure that the number that I am providing you as a financial institution, actually the person who has provided it to me is the owner of that number, because the telecoms did register a NIN and associated it with a phone number. So this is an opportunity for financial institutions to also be able to digitally verify the ownership of phone numbers. We are aware that URSB is also online through UG Hub as well, provided by NITA. So the verification of business names is also something that is coming, that will be accessible to you. We know how long this process takes. Some financial institutions need to actually hire lawyers to go and validate this information, but now this information is accessible. So this information can be validated online. Next. We also talked, I think Dr. Atrip also referenced the other opportunities from immigration that will be coming in future. The ability to verify passports and residence information that is maintained by the immigration department through UBA. All these initiatives can be collaborated, and the same platform that has been provided to the financial institutions can be enhanced to provide these other verifications, as opposed to you running other parallel initiatives. So the way we look at the ID platform that each one of the financial institutions has access to today is what the ID is just the foundation. And then these other initiatives can be built upon as platforms like UG have become more sophisticated and provide access to more government data sources. But I think, again, I'll use the same opportunity to show you a 1-minute video clip of one of the most demanded for approach to opening bank accounts. This has not been scrutinized by the regulator, but it's WhatsApp. There's 1 billion holders of, first pause the video. There's, I think, almost 2 billion users of WhatsApp, and obviously a large percentage of the Ugandan population is a young population. There's widespread connectivity around the country, and financial institutions are starting to look into onboarding customers through USSD, but also WhatsApp. So the things that I've just told you in terms of verification of phone number, verification of ID, screening against watch lists, etc., how do they come together I wanted to show you a short video of how one actually gets to put all those things together to actually provide an account in less than a minute. And for those who are curious about this, we can have more time outside of here to explain to you how that works. You can start the video and I'll talk through as. So a customer would dial a number or WhatsApp a number that belongs to a certain financial institution, and then the USSD will start asking that customer for information. That ID card will be validated, and then this is the customer doing it themselves. Take a photo, and then a lot of verifications are starting to happen in the background. The collection of location information. So as this information is getting collected in the background, this app is sending information in the background for verification. Why is WhatsApp such an important platform? Because it's already installed on every user's phone. Everyone who has a smartphone in Uganda most likely has WhatsApp. So you don't need to ask your customer to first download your app, your bank app. This is already downloaded. It is supported by one of the best funded companies in the world. So all you need to do is to provide them with a number and say, if you want to open an account remotely, please send a chat, initiate a chat with us on a certain number, and then this process of interaction can happen. So what will happen is that information, after it's validated, will be pushed to you as a financial institution, and you can now push it into your core banking system or your customer onboarding system to actually immediately issue an account in less than a minute. Some financial institutions have actually started rolling this out. So these are some of the capabilities that are available to you. Some of your teams are already experimenting with them. Those that want to see how the platform that has already been implemented with you today and are curious in how to do this, say with WhatsApp or a mobile app or USSD, we are able to advise you on how to incorporate that into your own customer onboarding journeys. Lastly, if you can move to the last section. Yes, this is another information-heavy process. Basically, a lot of banks make money in loans and credit. What I know on the roadmap of UG Hub is the verification of land title information from the Ministry of Lands. So, and I know that a lot of loans are collateralized using land titles. This information is also going to be available for verification on the platform, and there is an opportunity to again build this into the foundation that you as members of UBA have already invested in. Again, a lot of financial institutions lend money based on logbooks. I've had terms like logbook financing. How do you know that that logbook is actually valid? Again, this is some of the information is on the roadmap. To have that available in the same platform, you have to pay for ID. There is a feature that URSP is rolling out. Again, I know that this is going to be part of UG Hub. It's called the Movable Assets Registry. If you say lend money using a logbook as a collateral, you verified it, you can actually put a caveat on that asset, and any other lender who wants to use the same piece of asset for accessing a loan, that financial institution is able to verify whether you, the borrower, is not already using that same asset as collateral on another loan. This is an attempt to centralize the verification of collaterals that are already encumbered by other financial institutions. And lastly, Doctor talked about the electronic signing or digital signing available on what will be rolled out soon, UG Pass, again provided by NITA, the ability to authenticate users as well as sign documents digitally. For credit processing, we know how many documents customers need to sign. The capability to sign these documents remotely, anytime, anywhere, is now no longer a dream. It is actually available. The legal framework is already available for digital signing under the Electronic Signature and Transactions Act. So now the technology has followed, and today, or in a few months from now, most of you should be able to leverage this platform for the same. So many banks are already on this platform, so it's no longer hearsay. So I encourage you to get in touch with us. We have installed the system in so many UBA members' environments. I know that over 60–70% are already using this platform actively. For those that have not managed to activate it and incorporate it into the processes, we have learned a lot from other financial institutions, the challenges they're facing. So get in touch with us and we can help you incorporate this process in your customer onboarding or credit processing journeys, as well as any compliance or risk related initiatives that you might have in your financial institution. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Timothy, for those insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we can only keep this conversation alive, and we want to believe the team in the room will be ambassadors to tell the next person in your institution about this. It can only get better with what Timothy has shared. We are at the tail end of the meeting right now, and I want to thank, on behalf of the team from FSDU and UBA, I want to say thank you so much for participating in this meeting, taking time off your busy schedules to join us and share your feedback. We don't take that for granted. And as we sign out, I want to invite members in the room for a group photo. The cameraman, I'm sure, is ready. So we want to just have a group photo, then thereafter feel free to network. We still have some breakfast, but in case you have other pressing obligations, you are free to leave at your own. Sorry? There's a question? Due to public interest, the question, we request that you write it on a notebook. Thank you so much, everybody, and let's just converge. The cameraman will advise us. We'll converge here, our stakeholders, and we'll have a group photo before we sign out. Have a nice rest of the day. Cameraman. Here. Some of them. We are standing here. Here, some will stand on the podium, some will sit down.
Can you get all of us?
We have to carry it together.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, yes.
I can send this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you for a group photo. Let's do this quickly.